Welcome to another episode of Light Vision Art Q&A. I'm your humble host, Alfonso Ashworth, and I'm glad to be back on live. We took a week off, had a very busy week. Weddings, traveling to Tupelo, Mississippi for radio broadcast. Of course, back here, trying to get called back up. But I see that I have my panel on board. Claudia is on board. I see Christopher E. Hamrick is on board. Jeff may jump in at some point, but of course we want to welcome you back to the show. I know you guys have been very busy with all your activities, and Claudia, she'll be back on. I'll have her on in just a little bit, have her tell us what she's been up to. But before we get started, let's do just a little bit of housekeeping. Of course, you can find me on different programs at times. Of course, you find me at Light Vision Art Q&A. We, of course, broadcast Saturday mornings. And, of course, this show is called Photography, Trick or Treat. We're going to talk about tricks and treats and things that you can do with your photography on a budget. You don't have to go out and buy a lot of gear. We're going to talk about some things that you can do, some effects that you can do with your cameras, whether it be a SLR or whether it's a point and shoot or pocket camera, even your smartphones. We can talk about that as well. And of course, we do broadcast live every Saturday morning, unless otherwise noted. From 10 to 11. You can find us on the YouTube channel. And also check us out in the dark room. We talk about dark room in use. That's the theme. That's part of our program. We do that every week. We talk about something you could possibly do in the dark room. And you can find me, of course, every week on Wednesdays for sure on Line Chasers Radio. It's a national broadcast. You can find me there. I'm part of their team. Just got back from Tupelo, Mississippi. Did 4 radio shows in about 5 hours. So I was hopping from studio to studio. So they kept me pretty busy during their Share-a-thon week. Of course, you can always get me in the classroom at Light Vision Art, the Educated Eye, part of a 16-week class. I'm wanting to work something out with my friend Christopher E. Hamrick. We're talking about that. We're going to get something going soon concerning some other things that we want to offer as a class or a workshop. And of course, you find me in the classroom with my students or with, whatever I'm doing in the classroom. And I would be remiss if I didn't tell you how to get in contact with someone that I'm very proud of, Jim and Marianne Young with We Be Lenses. If you need to rent high quality Canon lenses, we recommend you use WeBeLenses.com. Speaking of web pages, I like to also help out my friend Christopher E. Hamrick. You can go to his website, check him out. Go to ChristopherEHamrick.com. Check out some of his work. He's very talented. He's very knowledgeable in a lot of different areas. So go out and check out Christopher E. Hamrick. You can also find me at Light Vision Art, the Educated Eye, my website. That's lightvisionart.simdiff.com. Also, go to my website called Custom Color Photo. We can help you out with all your photographic needs, especially this time of year, your Christmas cards, your calendars, the mugs, your t-shirts, your mouse pads, your puzzles, blah, blah, blah. We do it all over at Custom Color Photo. And this is something I'm very proud to be a part of. It's the Wilson County Photography Guild. We just finished doing the Oktoberfest. One of our photographers won Best of Show. So I want to recognize that Scott Robertson, one of our esteemed photographers, won Best of Show at the Wilson Bank and Trust Oktoberfest Photography. So thank you, and I'm proud of you guys. Y'all do great work over there. All right, let's get down to business. We're talking about photography tricks. Welcome back, Claudia. Welcome back. What you been up to?
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, glad to be back. I've had a couple busy Saturdays myself. So
what you been doing besides helping me?
Helping dogs, you know, for one. But for example, last night I went to a charity event for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. They had a light the night walk and finished off with a little fireworks, which, you know, I couldn't pass up. Plus, we were supporting it in memory of one of our own employees that passed away in February. It was Doug. And a lot of us from work came together and walked and celebrated him. And it was a good event. And I was able to take pictures for that and, you know, keep the memory. Wow. So, great event. I've been just running around. It seems like that October is a month where everybody does something. And you didn't do a thing between June and August and September. Right. So, I mean, every weekend something is going on in October. So tomorrow I'll be going to a Titans game, and after that I'll be going to a dog show. So there goes Sunday. Right. And
well, you just staying busy.
Yeah, the camera is with me, you know. So I actually enjoy it.
Well, we're glad to have you back, and I can't wait to hear, you know, some of the things you want to talk about with tricks or treats.
Well, actually, I'm on here with my little notepad and hope that you two come up with some really good money-saving tips that I can note down.
Hey, anytime you can save money, that's a good thing.
I'm in.
All right. Let's bring in, of course, Christopher Hamrick. Christopher, what you been up to, big guy? Unmute yourself, Chris. You know, we tell people to mute themselves, but we're going to tell Chris to unmute himself. I'm not hearing you, big guy. We had you a while ago. I don't know what happened. Yeah. Did I mute you? Try it again. I'm not getting you. Yeah, we lost you. I don't know what you mean. Give me some hand signals. Because I'm not getting you. Okay, I'll tell you what, let me let you come back in, reboot yourself and come back in. I think we had that trouble last time with Christopher, and I'm not sure what it was that caused that to happen. But any case, he'll jump back in just a second. There's Jeff. Hey, Jeff, what's up? You on the road? What's happening? Oh, okay. So that's part of what you've been working on for the last week. I know I saw your pictures where you were somewhere. I forgot where you were. It looked like some trucks, you know, truck driving or something.
We were in, I was in Texas for a couple of days. One of my main accounts is Peterbilt Motors, and we go down there every year and help them with the open house.
Right. Well, I tell you, we're glad to have you back on. I'm gonna try to see if I can get Chris. But hey, Joni, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
We're doing great. Nice to see you again. We're gonna try to get Christopher on. Let me meet you in just a second, Jeff. We'll bring you back in just a little bit, okay? All right, Christopher. Where are you, sir?
All right. So I get yours. You got me?
There you are. Yeah, we got you this time.
All right.
We got you.
So
What you been up to, man?
the past, I guess, month, I've been working on an online Bible study.
Okay.
So just one of the things that I do in my spare time has been studying the Word for the past 15 years. And
Right.
it's gotten to the point now where people are, I guess, interested with all the crazy
Right.
stuff going on in the world and not really sure how the elections are going to pan out and stuff. So,
Right. Well, that's something we should all be focused on. Like I said, I was in Tupelo, Mississippi, this past week with part of the network that I'm involved in. And of course, we talk politics and religion. That's what we do. But of course, and I noticed you got a different sound and a different look. What's happening?
I had to upgrade some things because the I guess the mic on this computer picks up all the sound, and I've been using my soft boxes to, I guess, make a better presentation.
Right. That's a good idea, and you definitely sound really clear. I think we're probably using the similar microphones. I'm using a Blue Yeti. That's a very good microphone if you ever want to invest in one. But I think that's what you're using as well.
Yeah, it's on loan from the school.
Oh, okay. Well, as far as tricks or treats, one of the things I want to talk about is some of the things that photographers can do, especially in this time of year. Of course, come out with some really cool images. One of the things I want to talk about is the image I see that I'm showing on the screen. Don't be deceived. Don't be confused about it. I'm going to mute you just for a second, Chris. This image is called a moonbow. It's a moonbow. It's a very rare image that you may see. This is a nighttime shot, not a daytime shot. This is actually what we would call a lunar rainbow. And you can capture this image if you're very diligent in locating where they will show up at. The one that I show on a regular basis that I've shown before on here is one that a former student did. And this is called a lunar rainbow as well. It's a nighttime shot. And speaking of nighttime, this time of year, the moon is like spectacular. I mean, I don't know if you guys have been noticing it, but the moon is very, very easy to photograph this time of year. And moonbows and lunar rainbows, which are the same thing, are easy to capture if you have a tripod and you find the right location. Another thing I want to talk about are the simple tools that you need to do painting with light, which is a cool thing to do during this season as well, with all the things like the pumpkins and the ghouls and goblins and all those sort of things. I don't want to get into too much of the philosophical meaning behind it, but we do have a lot of opportunities this time of year to capture nighttime shots. And the simple things that I like to use, one is just a regular flashlight, like a LED. You see one that I have on the screen. You can make a snoot, which is nothing more than a way to focus the light or bring the light just to one area. And of course, you can use color gels to add color to your shot. And that's a great thing to use as well. And you can do ghost effects like you see right here. This is another little simple trick that you do with painting with light, where you actually, with the aperture probably locked at about 4, 5, 6, something like that. But then you can paint with a flashlight while the shutter is open. I think this painting was like 20 seconds or something like that. Those are cooler tricks that you can do. And then finally, this is another painting with light example where you can actually have people moving while your shutter is open. And if you paint them with a flashlight, you can get like a ghost effect, you know, movement to your shot. That shot here was like 55 seconds. And I painted each Boy Scout separately with a flashlight. And you can see they're moving, they're doing facial expressions and all sorts of things. And you can get some pretty cool shots with very little equipment. You don't need a whole lot of objects and things of that nature. So that's what I want to sort of focus on, to say, you know, what we're doing with the tricks or treats. Now, the treats can be the results that you come up with, you know, the outcome. When you really plan a really cool shot like that, and you can then see the results almost immediately today. With the digital cameras, you can actually see what you did pretty much right after you're done. With your smartphones, you can also use your smartphones to do these tricks or treats with the apps. So guys, ladies, jump in. What are you thinking? What's going on this time of year with you, Jeff? Jeff, you said you're getting ready to travel. Let me unmute you, Jeff. Can you unmute yourself? He's still muted. Okay, unmute yourself, Jeff, and we'll bring you back. Claudia, jump in. There he is. Hold on, we'll get Jeff first. Oh, he's gone now. Jeff, you with me? He's having trouble getting his mute on and off. Claudia, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Unmuted.
Yeah, you've seen some of those shots before that I'm showing,
Yeah.
with the little rainbow, using the snoot, using the little gels, and you've actually tried some of that. Am I wrong? Am I right?
Yes, actually I have. And I've always have a flashlight with me. Not so much for the, you know, ghostly images, but if you're somewhere and it is too dark on some subjects and objects, you can light them and paint them with a flashlight real quick and bring more of it to the picture.
Right.
So very good tool to have.
Yeah, and like you said, you don't just have to do it to do a ghost effect. You can bring a highlight to an otherwise dull looking image. And, you know, if you're out at night and you're trying to do some of these nighttime shots, you know, a flashlight will be as easy with, you know, using a flash. I'm not big on using flashes or strobes to do painting with light because you can't really control it that well. But with a, you know, little LED light, you can really control it a lot better.
Yeah, and you know, if all fails, get your cell phone out. They have pretty good, you know, flashlights on them. If you're in a pickle, you could use those.
Yeah, very, very cool. Hey, Jeff, I see I got you back in here. And you've done some painting with light as well, and played around with some of that. This time of year, do you find that you use some of those techniques? Do you ever get an opportunity to use them this time of year?
Most time when I'm out, when I try it, I'm just out shooting things at night, and maybe there's an object close to you that interesting object, and I'll highlight that and make it, you know, light up instead of maybe your other object, your main object is the, you know, is out. Maybe it's a building, it's lit up or something out away from it, but you catch both objects like that.
Well, and you know, too, to bring it even make more clarity to the painting with light. Painting with light is what photography is about, and that's what you're actually doing when you push that shutter release button. You're painting light to your medium, whether it's, like I said, whether it's film, whether it's a digital sensor, you're actually painting pixels. If you're using your digital sensor, you're painting pixels. So it's something we do all the time, but we miss out on opportunities sometimes, especially during the seasons. Like, of course, Halloween coming up, and you have Thanksgiving, Christmas, the fall seasons, all the different colors. We normally don't think about doing those sort of things at that time of year. Christopher, you do some studio work, so I know you've done some painting type light scenarios. Tell us more about what that would mean in terms of what you would use it for, say, this time of year. What kind of scenario would you set up for that at this time of year?
Well, I guess, I don't know, with the stuff that I'm doing lately, I guess I'm just trying to balance everything out inside the studio. Going out and doing stuff on location, it's rare for me to do that. And I haven't painted with light in a long time. I mean, I played with it a lot when I was, I guess, younger in the practice, where you're trying to figure things out. You're trying to understand what's actually taking place with the camera, messing with the shutter speed, going out and doing, say, a 5-minute long exposure. But as I matured in the craft, I don't, it's rare that I'll do stuff like that anymore. Just simply, unless I'm going after that look. Like I've got a picture of a lightning strike, and I went outside and I measured the light so that I could have like a 5-minute long exposure.
Right.
And then I just left the shutter open, hoping that a lightning strike would happen within my frame. Trying to, like, is it there to snap, and I used to do that. I mean, a long time ago I did that, where you're just, hitting it. But yeah, no, it's to me, I don't know how much I've messed with it lately.
Can you explain latency, like transparency, how transparency works in terms of like a ghost effect that you may have in a shot? Because I get a lot of people who think they've captured an image of a ghost, and you have to start trying to explain to them how transparency works and that time has everything to do with it. For example, you said a 5-minute exposure time. Well, if someone walked into that image and stood there for a minute and I painted them with a flashlight, they could look transparent. So they would technically look like a ghost in the shot. Can you, in technical terms, and according to your knowledge, how does that work? So maybe somebody viewing this will get a better understanding of that.
That was actually a trick that I used to do a lot when I was just more of an amateur, just taking pictures of the kids and stuff. But there was a setting on my camera that was a night setting. The strobe would go off, and then it would leave the shutter open for 10 seconds or so. I don't remember the duration, but so I would jump into the picture. When the strobe would go off, it would get me. And then I would move out of the way, and of course everybody else was nice and still. And so once they slowly got burned in as well. When they move, then the background would be burned in, which would give you that ghosting effect. But if they didn't move, then obviously light's not going to pass through them. So yeah, you can go out there with a strobe and take a picture and then move something and say, look, it goes. Because the 1800s, they were actually doing that. Once they finally got away from wet plate, they were able to do dry plate, and they would actually pre-expose the image with little angels, and they would put on the paper where the angel was on it, and they would say, let's see if your baby has a guardian angel, and they would go in and they would develop and take the picture and do all of it in front of the parents so that they knew that there was no, shenanigans or tomfoolery. And as that developed, there was a little translucent angel over the baby. Right. Snake oil salesman.
And people bought into that, didn't they?
Absolutely.
They bought it. Anyway, Claudia, jump in. What do you think about what Chris is saying here with the this is not something new. I mean, sometimes we talk about this as if, we've just now discovered it. But the facts are, these are things that photographers have been doing for years to enhance, or, as Chris would say, tomfoolery that may went on with an image, and people that were claimed to be clairvoyant or mystics, or maybe they told the future or did some things like that. They a lot of times were using those sort of tricks. And even today we do it. And do you ever see an accident happen in your shot? Like, if something happened when you were doing the exposure and then you didn't know how it happened, and then you later discovered that it was somebody walking through your frame, or something was in the background that you didn't notice?
Yeah, I've had those. It reminds me early Photoshop, what Christopher just said was those little angels, got to work with all tricks. I love it. I have not heard that they did this in the early days. But
Right.
But I actually have a couple pictures, long exposures in the dark, where people walked through the shot and they were like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in your picture." I'm like, "You're actually not. You walked through too fast through there." And you
Right.
can just sometimes, when they're standing on the side or so, just see a little fuzzy of them,
Right.
because they have not been in the picture for the whole time of the exposure.
Right.
Makes for
Well,
interesting shots as well, I think, if there's people walking through and just you see shadows.
yeah. And another trick, that's a trick. You can move your camera during the exposure time. I see that Christopher has got us a shot up. We're going to bring it up in a minute. But you can actually, during the exposure time, you can move your camera and get an effect. So it's not just the person moving. You can actually move and make a pattern during the effect as well. Christopher, I think, has a shot for us that he's dug out of his archives. What do we have here, Chris?
Now, this is from 2003. It was when I was new to this, and I found out the trick behind it. And I found it out because I was at Opryland, and people you've seen it where they take a picture of something, and let me get this off the screen real fast, because you take a picture and it's just them, nothing in the background. And so you go to Opryland, you got all this nice stuff, especially at nighttime, and they got, especially Christmas, they've got lights all over the place inside the Delta. So I was taking pictures of a family in the Delta, and I was using the setting where it would take a picture of them. The strobe would go off, it would light them nicely, and then the shutter would stay open and burn in the background so that you could see the waterfalls and all the trees and everything like that. Well, this is the same thing, except here I just took a picture and then I moved out of the way. And so I played with that for a while.
Right. Could you show us that image once more, just so that we can view what you was talking about with the transparency? And
so this is set up on a tripod. I put in a little timer and then ran over there that the strobe goes off on the camera, and then I move out of the way, and they stay still.
Right. And that, like I said, it gives you that ghost effect. And you could put a spooky person behind there, or somebody dressed up in a period outfit, or a child that supposed to have been dead or whatever, and you can then fool almost anybody with stuff like that. I see it on Facebook and all this all the time, where people are doing this. And we as photographers, one of the things that I like to do is dissect an image, like try to figure out what the photographer was doing. And that would be my pastime. That's what I like to do for my pastime. So a lot of time I will look at images on Facebook or Twitter or some other social media, and 99.9% of the time I can figure out what they were trying to do. And it's not that hard. What we're talking about today, of course, are things that you can do with your photography. Some things like moon bows or lunar rainbows or things like that. I was hoping we could get one back up. I don't see it coming up. Oh, there it is. You can get a moon bow. And that one, if you look close, has lightning in it, Chris. If you look close to that shot, you can see some lightning. And that's a nighttime shot, not a daytime shot. And also the one here is an example of the same thing. A place, Corbin, Kentucky, is where you can go and get this shot. The home of Kentucky Fried Chicken. This shot was like 4 minutes, like a 4-minute exposure time under a full moon. So you can only do it at a certain time of the month, and you can capture lunar rainbows or nighttime rainbows or moon bows, as some people will call them. And of course, some of the tools that I talk about using are flashlights, little objects that you can use to paint or color your image. If you want to use a strobe, you can. I just prefer using a flashlight myself, especially on a long exposure time. But as Chris just stated, you can actually strobe a shot. One of the things is called second curtain sinking, where the strobe actually fires at the end of the exposure instead of at the front of the exposure time. That's another technique. Hey, that's another tip, trick, or treat for you. Look and see if your camera and flash will allow you to do what they call second curtain sinking. You can do some really cool effects with that. And of course, this is an example of just using painting with light. I actually did this one with my iPhone. It's an app called Slow Shutter, where you can actually see it happening while you're doing the exposure. And then, of course, this one right here is a painting with light exercise that I did with some Boy Scouts. So that's what we're discussing today. And I see that Chris has another shot up that we can bring up for a second that he did. I think he showed this once before. What is this one, Chris?
This is a long exposure in my car. I hit 100,000 miles. I set the tripod up and weighed it down. I have a hook on the bottom, and I put my backpack on there to try to keep it as stable as I could. And I exposed for the gauges, which left me about a 4 or 5 minute exposure. And then I drove through Lebanon a couple of times, and this was the best out of them.
Yeah, that's Lebanon, making it look like Vegas. You made Lebanon look like Las Vegas. So any case, and Claudia, bring you back in just for a second.
Chris, could you explain again how you did that last shot you showed?
Yeah, sure. So obviously you want a tripod, and you want your tripod to be nice and stable. Being in the car, moving around, you can see a little bit of motion blur actually in the image itself, if you really get a good look at it. And then I have my light meter, and I measured what the gauges, what they would need to be properly exposed, and set it up for about probably a 5 minute exposure. And then I just left the shutter open, and I drove through the city. And then once the shutter was finished, it just shut down and rendered my image. And so it gives you these nice little streaks and whatnot all over the place.
Yeah. And as you can see there, you can see cars. You can see the cars on the street.
But you say like 4 minutes. Is that not really, really long?
Well, once you get down to understanding stops, one more stop above 30 seconds is a minute. One more stop above a minute is 2 minutes. One more stop above 2 minutes is 4 minutes. Right. So, you think about one more stop from an hour is 2 hours. You want to go one more stop, 4 hours. So just add it. They add, the stops just add.
Yeah.
One more stop from a day is 2 days. I mean, how you get, because it's an exponential curve with the light. It's not linear. It's not like 1 + 1 is 2, and then the next one's another 1. Now you're 2, and then the next one's 4, and the next one's 8, 16. So that's why we see it in the 30th and the 60th of a second.
Right. And this is why when you're using locking your aperture down, if you could actually lock it down to 64, like a pinhole, you could do hours exposures in daylight in some cases. If you can actually close your aperture down to a pinhole. I've actually done that before, where I use a pinhole camera, and by doing so, I can set it up and you don't even see traffic. You don't see people walking down the street. I mean, because the time is so long and the aperture is so small that it takes that long for light to expose. This is why early photography, when they would do that, many times you didn't see people because it took minutes to make an exposure. Just like you were saying earlier, Claudia, somebody walks through your image on a long exposure, you don't see them. Because why? Latency. They don't have time to get exposed. We talked about that in terms of, making something invisible in a shot. So did Chris answer your question pretty good, Claudia? Did it sink in?
No, the 4 minutes just seem way too long.
Yeah.
To me, I would think I get a really bright picture, white.
What was your F number? What was your F number, Chris? You remember?
I don't remember, because I just measure it. I mean, when you're dealing with a triangle of how long did I want the exposure to be, I wanted it to be about 4 minutes time to drive through the city. So I probably had f/22 as my aperture, and I probably had it on ISO 100. I could probably pull up the metadata when I get some time. But,
let me add one more thing. The city of Lebanon is not that bright.
in more ways than one.
Yeah, so all right, Chris. I live here now. But the lights are not all in one place when he's driving. It's a light here, a light there. It just looks like there's more lights because it layers as he's driving. So that's the best way I can try to explain that. And this is a famous shot here. I know the shot he's showing. Isn't this the first image that was recorded in photography?
No, this is not the first. We should actually back up. The first permanent image was by Nicephore Nips. But this is the first image that actually you can see a human being in.
Right.
It's like way down there. I don't know if I can point her, but yes, first time, because the shoe shine guy was there long enough for them to be captured. Before that, the exposures that we're doing were so long that you didn't see any horse, buggy, traffic, people, anything.
Right. And that's what I'm explaining about the f/64 number. If you can choke off the light, you can then avoid moving objects because they're not standing still long enough to be recorded. Now, if they would stop, like you said, the shoe shine person in the shot, well, he probably sitting there for a while. Well, with that in mind, where's the people he's shining the shoes for? I mean, if he's a shoe shiner, wouldn't you would think you would see people there too? No, they're moving.
There's two of them there. You can see him shining the shoes, but they were there in one spot long enough. They were captured.
So all the other people walking and going about were not there. In any case, you get it now, Claudia?
I'm getting there. And I'm going somewhere tonight. So maybe I can rig up something in the car because I have a passenger that can maybe help me and assist.
Right. Okay. Well, maybe that will help, explain why you can get so many exposures during that amount of time. You're basically layering whatever's there. Now, if you're moving, of course, whatever's standing still is going to look like it's moving. Whereas if the tripod is attached to your car, then the car is going to seem like it's sitting still. It's a fun thing to try. It's a fun thing to try with people too. If you can get people stand still long enough, like on a city street, have some standing still, some moving, then you can show more movement by having a longer exposure time. And Claudia, you just purchased something that should help you out with that. You just have that variable neutral density filter that will let you go from what, 2 to 8 stops? Any 2 to 8 stops?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, that is something you could use like in a daytime exposure to do some of these effects we're talking about, because you could choke off the light. Of course, we're talking about that in terms of painting with light. And this time of year with your ghosts and your goblins and your ghouls and all that stuff, little kids dressed up in their little whatnots. It'd be a cool time to try some of that if you got kids out moving about with their, outfits on or costumes on. Use a long exposure time. Just set your tripod up. If you're at a party or if you're at some kind of event, set that tripod up, lock that aperture down as far as you can go, and then use your neutral density filter if you have to get a 4 or 5 minute exposure. And then every so often, do something where you can, add the light to it if you'd like to, whether it be a strobe or whether it be a flashlight. Christopher got something else he's wanting to show us. These are famous shots. I see these all the time where you get traffic moving. Tripod set up still. Go ahead, Chris. Explain that one.
This is on my lunch break while I was working at B&H Foods. The people that brought you, what is that, MSG? The accent, anyway. So yeah, I set this up. This was, I think, a 5 minute exposure at f/22. I just measured what it would take for me to expose for the area around me with the sunset. So what would it take to properly expose the sunset or anything else? And then you just let it sit there and allow the vehicles to pass by over the 840 there.
Yeah, and that, of course, that's sunset. What would you say your exposure, your aperture? What's the exposure time and stuff?
Most likely f/22 or something. It might not have been completely that. It might have been f/16 or f/11.
Right.
But yeah, I always keep my ISO low. So like this camera, the Sony I've got now will do ISO 50. This was my Nikon, so it's ISO 100. And then you just measure for what it would take to give you the time that you want.
Right. And if someone were to walk into that shot and just kind of walk in and stand for a few seconds or long enough to get an image and then walk out, you can actually see latency or transparency of that person, just like you did with that earlier shot that you showed us. So those are good times to try those sort of effects, as if you want to call it, or tricks or something like that. And it's not hard to do. As a matter of fact, it's pretty fun to do. In any case, I'm going to let you guys sort of tell some things that you're working on. I know, Chris, you're working on some things. And Claudia, I'll bring you in, let you talk about maybe something that you're working on that you're trying to work with. Go ahead, Chris. What's your latest project that you say you're doing outside of the radio stuff? I mean, the the Bible study stuff. You working on anything else?
No, not really. I just, spent 3 months out in North Carolina helping a friend, and so I'm just kind of taking a break right now. I don't, for me, the work that I do is based on some sort of inspiration. I can't just go out there and just start shooting stuff. With the training that I have, I went from you see something pretty and then you go and take a picture of it, or you do experiments, to the point now where I can see the entire image already in my head, and then it's just a matter of assembling that image with the proper lighting. And so yeah, until I get any sort of inspiration, I'm kind of dead in the water right now.
Right. And you've been out on the West Coast, haven't you, recently?
Yep.
Didn't you go out west?
We drove, a friend of mine drove from Wilmington, and she picked me up in Nashville, and we went all the way to Escondido. And so, yeah, it's been, I've been traveling a lot this summer.
Well, you got to slow down a little bit so me and you can talk about some things, because you got some ideas for some workshop stuff that we may be able to pull off at some point. But of course, I always appreciate it when you come on the show, because you always got something exciting to talk about or to demonstrate. Of course, you can go to Christopher's website. If you'd like to go to his website at Christopher E. Hamrick, of course, check out what he does there at ChristopherEHamrick.com. Of course, he's talked to us about infrared, film exposures, camera tricks, lighting tricks, and you can go over there and check Christopher out. You can also find me at lightvisionart.com. Check out what I do over there with the classes. If you need photo finishing done or printing or any kind of printing service, go to customcolorphoto.lifepix.com. Check out what we do. We got a wide range of services over there that you can be a part of. So go check that out as well. And be a part of the Camera Club, WCPG online. We meet once a month, on first Mondays of the month. We just had a great meeting. And of course, we're very proud of one of our very own, Scott Robertson, who just won Best of Show at the Wilson County Bank and Trust Oktoberfest. Claudia worked that event, and because she's always working, doing something. So I'm gonna give Claudia a chance to tell us what she's been doing and what she plans on doing. What's going on, Claudia, in your world?
Yeah, another busy weekend coming up, Al.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to a Halloween party tonight, and I need some more experience in taking people pictures with flash, so I'm going to practice that tonight.
Right. Well, take your tripod. Take your tripod and practice with some of the
things we talked about today.
Time exposures. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Since I'm on, I wanted to tell Joni something. I don't know if they're still listening in or if she's watching later. During our last Wilson County Photography Guild meeting, she had asked what a good backpack would be to take on hikes and everything.
Okay.
And her husband recommended ask the girls, right? Because, he may have different opinion about this. So I have one that I can put from backpack into sling bag, and you have both options of carrying your things. And I weighed mine yesterday before I went to this event. It was like 8 pounds, a little over 8 pounds. And when I took the camera out and held it and had the tripod attached, I was probably still at 9-10 pounds or somewhere right there. But what I like about the sling, it's like, let me unplug one ear.
Okay.
If you have it in front of you, can you see it like so? And you can actually use it as a tripod when you're out and about. The strap holds you in the back, and it gives you extra support if you have it right in front of you. That's why I like the sling bags. Plus, you can get really easy into it. And then when you're back to hiking, put it on both shoulders, and you're leveled and you're walking straight and not a little lopsided.
Right.
That's why I like both options on one backpack.
Price.
You know me, always a good price. I mean,
Yeah.
you have to see, you know, there's small backpacks that take your gear to the store, or, you know, get one shipped and see if everything that you want to take on a hike fits in.
Right.
You know, I have a smaller one and I have a bigger one. The bigger one I use when I travel, like on an airplane. It's about a good size. You can put more, you know, a couple more shirts and stuff in it, put it in your overhead compartment and have it with you. And then I have the smaller one that I can carry like every day. So it's
Right.
up to the person.
Yeah. Just your preference.
Yeah.
But you know, I still, you know, price wise and convenience don't always go together. You know, price and convenience. Sometimes you can get convenience, but it's not, you know, it's more pricey versus, you know, the discomfort of having to work with it a little bit. And I like the backpack style that you're showing right there, especially if you have back trouble and shoulder trouble and neck trouble. It's probably a better product for you. And as you just said, it has two functions. You can actually swing it around the front and maybe use the bag as a something like a tripod to steady yourself. And it makes it easy to get in and out of the bag. Or if, like you said, if you're packing or hiking or, you know, traveling, you can swing it back around, bring it over the two shoulders, and makes that convenient as well. Of course, Claudia always comes out with some great tip that she has.
And mine was actually started out as a sling bag, and I did a couple trips, and it really after a while hurt on one shoulder.
Right.
That I went ahead and attached the backpack straps with, you know, sewed them on, and now I love it. So
Okay, so you altered yours. You did some alterations.
Yes, but they are out there, you know. So I try, you know, to alter mine first before I may go out and buy one that has it, just to see how it works for me. It always works perfect.
Okay. So you may, like Claudia just said, if you buy one, you can alter them to suit your purpose. And since we're talking about mostly evening, nighttime, early morning, or those kind of shoots, you probably want a bag that you can have convenient anyway. And less is better. You know, the less gear you have to carry around is going to be better for you. But of course, I want to thank Claudia and Christopher for coming on the show this morning. Christopher's got a new project that he's working on in the Bible study area. And how do we get in touch with you on that, Christopher? How do they find you if somebody wants to join in?
It's on my YouTube channel, Hamrick CE.
Okay.
I'm dealing a lot with the rapture and the Jewish feasts.
Right.
And the sign that will take place in Revelation. Revelation chapter 12, there's a sign, and you can actually download Stellarium, which is planetary software, and actually see that sign for yourself. So it's with things going the way it is in the world, there's a lot of people that think that we're actually getting close. And I know that some denominations, they don't believe in a literal reign of Yeshua on earth. So it also steps on toes. So if you really want to be authentic, come find my YouTube channel.
Now, Chris, you would never step on anyone's toes. I know you. You would do almost anything to stop them and not step on somebody's toes. Of course, I'm teasing Chris. Chris is someone, he's going to get down to the nitty gritty on whatever he's dealing with. So you better do your homework. If you're going to go talk to Chris, you better get your homework down before you deal with him, because I know him. He's going to be Johnny on the spot. And of course, I thank Chris and Claudia for, of course, coming out and being a part of the Light Vision Art program. It is an early morning program for a lot of people. I'm an early bird. I get up quite early anyway. But if you want to be a part of our program, if you want to be a part of what we do, that's easy. You can go to our page, of course, Light Vision Art Q&A. You can be a part of the Saturday morning program that we do. We broadcast every Saturday, if live. If not, you can go back and look at some of our previous programs. But you can find us at Light Vision Art, of course, on YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube, just type in Light Vision Art Q&A, and you will find us there. You can join into the live show or look at our previous shows. But if you want to be a part of this show, contact me at lightvisionart@gmail.com, or you can call me. That's easy enough too. You can call it 615-547-3355, and that will get you connected with the show as well. You can also be a part of our Darkroom series, where we talk about things the way that they should be done, whether you're using Photoshop, whether you're using Corel Draw, whatever software you're using it will have some darkroom implications. It will be terminology that you will hear that's part of the darkroom. And, you can also get in my classroom and be a part of that. And if you want to talk religion, if you want to talk politics, join me at Lion Chasers Radio. You can go to Lion Chasers Radio, and that's on urbanfamilytalk.com. It comes on weekdays all day long. But find me on Lion Chasers Radio from 10 to 12 p.m. Central Time. And then you'll hear me there getting things stirred up, Chris, by the way, which I'd have a tendency to do. You can also get in my classroom at Light Vision Art, The Educated Eye. It's a 16-week class, basic photography. You get a workbook. We talk about lighting. We talk about exposures, and we talk about mastering the box with the hole in it. And of course, you'll find me there in the classroom, whether I'm teaching a private class or a group class. And by all means, if you need lenses, you want to get lenses at an affordable rate, you want to be able to rent good Canon lenses and get them quickly, we recommend that you go to WeBeLenses.com. Jim and Mary and Young, who are part of our guild group, you can go there as well and be a part of that. But thank you guys for getting up early, chiming in. But as always, as usual, all good things come to an end, Chris and Claudia, no matter what that is. It's hard to determine, what you want to do with your photography. It's not always easy to decide, if you want to be a sports photographer, a wedding photographer, or whatever kind of photographer you want to be. But one thing you do know that you can master the box with the hole in it. And one way you can do that is get that camera out of that darn bag. Get it out of the bag and start shooting, man. Just start shooting. Just get it out. Experiment with the settings. Take your settings and try different things, like what Chris said earlier, like the nighttime setting. That's a good place to start, is with the nighttime setting, and try some of those tricks with your flash. And then you can try some stuff that I talk about, painting with light, to where you use, get your flashlight like this, just like a little flashlight, and play with that. Try painting with light on some timed exposures. But it's time to go. Time to get out of here. Of course, I want to thank you guys for being a part of the show. God bless you, and Peace.